what's going on or has decided to sit things out or feel that they have other more pressing issues than focusing on the current election or planning to vote. So she's talking to that voter, hoping to motivate them to care about this election, it being such a consequential election in our time, and also to actually show up and vote. So thank you, Areva, for all that you do. Thank you for being out on the front lines and covering the issues that matter the most. And thank you for asking me to guest host your show today. So if you're tuning in, today is Monday, October 28th, 2024. Lots happened over the weekend, and we look forward to covering those issues with our two special guests in our next segment. We look forward to welcoming returning guest Alan Orr to the show, as well as Rashad Frazier Gaines. And I know they are all set and ready to go and ready for a lively discussion to cover some of the most pressing issues in the news and related to this election cycle, this presidential election cycle, as well as other consequential elections during this time. Before we jump into the headline news, let me thank our team behind the scenes, Robert and Andy at KBLA Talk 1580 Studios. Thank you for all you're doing to power today's show and for helping me to be prepared. I am the host of KBLA Talk 1580's Legal Lens, which airs on Saturdays at 11 a.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. The replay on Sundays at 1 p.m. So be sure to catch my show. And now we have a podcast version of our show, which streams on all of your favorite podcasts. So look for the Legal Lens Show with Angela Reddock Wright. And I'm excited that this Saturday and this weekend and following on podcast, we have our very own Areva Martin joining us. And she's going into more detail about the battleground states that she's covering, the voters that she's reaching out to. So that's going to be a great show. I also invite you to follow KBLA Talk 1580 on all of your socials, and also to download our app. So if you're just tuning in, you can download our app and you can share that app with family member, friends, people in your network, and encourage them to listen to Areva Martin in real time, as well as all of our other great shows on KBLA Talk 1580. And of course, this show is coming to you live on YouTube. And so we invite you to share the YouTube app as well and to join us for this next 2 hours as we dissect in real time many of the issues that matter today. Let me share with you some headline topics from this weekend, which we'll have our first two guests weigh in on. But let me lay the foundation and the framework. Donald J. Trump's closing rally at Madison Square Gardens, just getting all sorts of attention, not for the right reasons. On the second to last Sunday before the election was a release of rage at a political and legal system that impeached, indicted, and convicted him, a vivid and at times racist display of the dark energy animating the MAGA movement. Certainly, we did not see the best of America at that rally. A comic kicked off the rally by dismissing Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage, then mocked Hispanics as failing to use birth control, Jews as cheap, and Palestinians as rock throwers, and called out a Black man in the audience with the reference to watermelon. Not the best of America. With 1 week to go until the election, Kamala Harris's lead over Donald Trump in the national poll is starting to get very slim. Overall, she leads by less than 1 percentage point, according to the New York Times polling average. It's her smallest lead since mid-August. And we also saw in the news today where the microphones were on when Vice President Harris was having a conversation with the governor of Michigan. They were having a drink together at a bar, and the microphone overheard Vice President Harris state that she needs to make up ground with men, male voters in particular. And to the extent that the polls have distinguished where some of the big gaps are between Vice President Harris and former President Trump, it's among men. So definitely look forward to talking to our two guests today about that particular issue. Also in the news today, U.S. intelligence agencies have identified domestic extremists with grievances rooted in election-related conspiracy theories, including beliefs in widespread voter fraud and animosity toward perceived political opponents uh, as the most likely threat of violence in the coming election. So certainly something to be concerned about. In a joint intelligence bulletin that was not distributed publicly but was reviewed by NBC News agents from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, they warned state and local law enforcement agencies, that domestic violence extremists seeking to terrorize and disrupt the vote are a threat to the election and throughout Inauguration Day. And we certainly trust that those agencies and other law enforcement agencies are on guard and looking to protect our political system. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner is suing Elon Musk and his super PAC to block their $1 million giveaway to registered voters, seeking to halt the lottery-style stunt that election experts and the Department of Justice have warned might violate federal law. Krasner is seeking an injunction, and he argued in filing the injunction that the effort is an illegal, unregulated lottery, sidestepping the question of whether it violates vote buying laws. Certainly, we don't want anyone to be able to buy votes. We want them to work for them and to earn them. Senator J.D. Vance, in other news of Ohio, Saturday declined to characterize Russian President Vladimir Putin as an enemy, stating instead that I think he's clearly an adversary. He is a competitor. But I think that we also have to be smart about diplomacy too, Vance stated, who is Donald Trump's running mate, of course. And he added in an interview with NBC News, Meet the Press, that aired Sunday, just because we don't like somebody doesn't mean that we can't occasionally engage in conversations with them. What a way to put it. And finally, a white Minneapolis man accused of shooting and critically injuring his black neighbor, was arrested early Monday following a SWAT standoff after the department faced backlash for failing to address his escalating threats that turned violent. John Herbert Sawchuk, 54, was arrested in connection with allegedly shooting his neighbor, Davis Moturi, 34, in the neck on October 23rd. So those are some of the headlines for today. Of course, the driving headlines being 1 week out, or almost 1 week out, a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, to the presidential election. Those are the headlines driving the news, and all news and outlets and all individuals are focused on what to expect come November the 5th, a date that will forever, good, bad, or indifferent, change the trajectory of American politics, of where we go as a country. My family this weekend, there are different ways, former First Lady Michelle Obama, in her speech at the DNC convention this past August. And again, she reiterated it as she was out on the campaign trail this past weekend for Vice President Harris, that it is incumbent upon all of us to do something, right? And, individuals like her, and other celebrities and high profile individuals are out on the campaign trails, and they're doing big rallies and big events. We saw Beyonce and Kelly Rowland did an event for the vice president this weekend, as well as many others. But then there's just everyday folks like you and me, and we too can do something, whether it be outreach to our family and our friends, whether it be hosting coffee clutches at our houses. I saw a group of women this weekend. They were all at one house, co-located together, doing phone banking. I'm aware of another group that from California that went out to Arizona this weekend and Nevada this weekend to do door knocking and meeting voters one-on-one. So we all can do something. In my own family this weekend, we hosted our first ever voter ballot review and get out the vote family meeting. where we literally sat in my and my husband's home. We all had our ballots and our sample ballots and our voter information guides in front of us, and we literally walked line by line, or issue by issue, candidate by candidate, proposition by proposition, from the presidential election, federal candidate election candidates, local candidates, county, and all of the state and local propositions in California. We walked through those one by one, weighed in on them as a family member, and as family members, and while we had agreement on many of the issues as a family, we weren't in agreement on all of the issues. And so we talked through those issues, the pros, the cons, and everyone, as we sat there, filled out either their actual ballots to go for us to do absentee ballot. I myself, I do absentee voting, and I plan to drop my ballot off at a authorized voting center here in California. Others, will vote in person, and others will vote by mail. But we felt good as a family that we are exercising our rights as citizens to prepare to vote, to actually vote. And we encourage you to do the same, to, bring together your families, talk to the young people, the young adults that are 18 and above in your families about the importance of voting. In our African American community in particular, as a woman, so much has been sacrificed for us to be able to have this right to vote. And it concerns me when I hear young adults who are saying, young adults or even seasoned adults, some of the adults that Areva's talking to on her campaign trail, saying things like they are not planning to vote. They're just going to sit this one out. And that's just not acceptable. No matter what side of the aisle you are on, sacrifices were made, for us to have this right to vote. So let's not squander it. Let's not take it for granted. Let's get out personally and plan to vote. Let's get those in among our family members, our friends, within our network. Let's do our part. Let's do our part, as Michelle Obama stated, to make sure that nothing in this election, nothing in this coming election is taken for granted, or that we all don't do our part to have our voice heard. And sometimes it feels like your one voice doesn't make a difference, but it's like the clapping of the hands or standing for an ovation, that there is power once we all clap together, once we all stand and give an ovation together, when we all vote together, that one voice turns into many. And so that's what it's all about, using your one voice, which you may not think says a lot, does a lot, especially in this country when we have the Electoral College, which, as we know, the college, independent of the popular vote, can make a decision, to go in a different direction as the popular vote. And Tavis Smiley was on my show, the Legal In Show, this past weekend. And thank you, Tavis, for coming on. And one of the things that he said is that, once we get through this election, the next thing we really need to be thinking about, as Americans, as a voting population, a democracy, is whether we still need the Electoral College. And that has been for debate for many years. It always comes up in every presidential season, presidential cycle. Should we have the Electoral College? And maybe I'll ask our guests today to weigh in on that issue as well. Also, in the Legal In Show, if you're looking back at some of our past shows, a few shows ago, we had attorney Ludlow B. Curry II on, and he specifically talked about and reminded us of the history of the Electoral College and how it came into being. And it really came into being because the founders, the authors of the United States Constitution, did not trust everyday people to make decisions about their electeds. And so they wanted a system in place whereby they could bypass the popular vote and bypass the opinions and thoughts of everyday Americans with the Electoral College. So that's next up for debate. But today, in this hour, in this 2 hours that I'm hosting, Areva Martin Show in real time, a great part of the show, we will take up the issues that just dropped this weekend in terms of this presidential election cycle. And we will hear what Alan Orr and Rashad Frazier Gaines have to add to that conversation. I know they have a lot to add because on KBLA Talk 1580, including on Areva Martin in real time, as well as Angela Reddock Wright, the Legal Lens Show, we always have a lot to talk about. So stay tuned, folks. Come forward with us, and I promise you a great and engaging dialogue with our two guests. Come forward with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over. And if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome back. My name is Angela Reddock Wright, and I am guest hosting for Areva Martin in real time. I am the host of KBLA Talk 1580's Legal Lens, which comes on Saturdays at 11 a.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. Areva Martin herself is out in the battleground states as we speak, speaking to voters who will help to decide this next election. And so thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to a lively discussion today with our two guests. The first being Alan Orr. Good afternoon. Good evening, Alan. How are you today?
Happy to be here.
Thank you. And Alan is a returning guest to the Legal Lens Show. He is the founder of the Orr Immigration Law Firm, a well-regarded expert in immigration law, based in the great state of Tennessee, a graduate of Morehouse College, great college, and is, well regarded and prepared to help us dissect the issues of today. And then let's bring back up the photo of our second guest, Rashad Frazier Gaines. Welcome, Rashad. How are you today?
I'm well. Nice to meet you, Angela. Nice to meet you, Alan.
Thank you for joining us today. And you hail from the big state of Texas. Lots of family and friends that live in Texas. You are the founder of Black Progressives and a well-regarded expert in faith-based issues. And we are happy to have you and look forward to your weigh in today as well. So, Alan, let's start with you as an immigration expert and someone who, not only practices law, in with respect to issues of immigration, but I'm sure you have a lot of weigh-in on, from this presidential election, as immigration has been at the core, one of the core issues in the election. And what are your do you think Vice President Harris has made any ground in her conversation about the issue of immigration and how she, if elected president, would deal with this issue of immigration?
Yeah. So I think she has made ground. I think she's really I think she has made ground. She sort of defined the issue, which is Congress. And I think part of this is a civics lesson and also a legal lesson. Many individuals do not know that immigration is one of the areas of law, like tax, that is relegated to Congress. And therefore, the only people who control either the money that goes to resourcing immigration or the law that goes to changing immigration is actually Congress. So expecting a president to change immigration beyond just doing enforcement of the law or some monumental sort of temporary fix has been the problem for the last 30 years. So I think she pretty much addressed that during several speeches. And this concept of why did she wait to take any action at the border, or why did the Biden administration wait? Because we also know the vice president does not have any authority with regards to immigration, nor was she ever the borders are. So taking all those things into consideration, it is very clear what she has to say. And it's on Congress to sort of mend the big problem by funding it and allowing more judges and more work to go to the border. What the Biden administration has done, they've done an administrative change to asylum and also cut off border crossings and working with Mexico. However, that is not a long-term relief. And if the Biden administration loses and President Trump comes back, then we'll be back into this legal fight rather than sort of resolving immigration overall. In concept, what I think we do need to remember, in 60 Minutes did this really excellent story last night about this, is the Trump administration is promising you one thing, which is mass deportation. And beyond the billions of dollars that it would cost for a removal of individuals, he does not discuss all the increase in inflation that would be from the jobs that are lost. And as we need to rebuild North Carolina and Florida, it's just not a realistic picture. And the message that he's sending to us is, you who are not white are not American. You're, whether it be the Haitians in Springfield or the Latinos that he sort of discussed at his rally in New York City. And Stephen Miller, who was his chief officer at the time, sort of said, America is for Americans, when in fact, we know because of the immigration code, we welcome immigrants to come in and to become Americans through a process that takes about, 10 to 20 years to be a citizen to vote. So that's where we sort of are in this dynamic of trying to understand what's going on. And while immigration was at the top of the issue, now with the border numbers being rarely low and the cost and concern of family separation, and Tom Horman, who is Trump's tight #1 ICE enforced officer, removal and enforcement, basically was on 60 Minutes saying, listen, we'll remove the children who came here undocumented and their parents. And we don't care if they're American, they have the option to also be removed with their kids, which just isn't a realistic or an American concept.
Right. And just this segment is short already. So just in few more seconds, my understanding is, as you just touched upon, that the numbers are actually down in terms of the numbers of individuals who've come across the border in these last months where Biden did adjust his policy on immigration.
That is correct. All-time low since even before the Trump administration, which we're sort of, you can't actually combine or compare apples to apples because COVID did happen. It's a real thing, as well as conditions in countries have decreased, and the fall of Venezuela has also happened during that time period. So it's difficult to compare, but yes, the numbers are down.
And would Vice President Harris, if she becomes president, would she be able to issue an executive order bypassing Congress? I mean, but I think she'll have Congress, to work with if she becomes president. But would she be able to issue an executive order if for some reason the Congress doesn't pan out as planned?
As a lawyer and someone who's a member of the Supreme Court, I think you can argue before the Supreme Court and has done many cases, I don't think that is the right answer. The right answer for many of our issues is for Congress to pass a law. That way it's permanent and it's something that we've all agreed to and it's funded.
Great. What a great place to pause here. And it lays the foundation for us to bring Rashad in. The next stage of our conversation, you're tuned into KBLA Talk 1580. Come forward with us as we continue to break down some of the key and consequential issues of the day.
The right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. One of Dwayne Wade's most famous moments is now immortalized in bronze. The 8-foot bronze statue depicts Wade reacting after he hit a game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer in a double overtime win over Chicago in 2009. Jury selection for Daniel Penny's NYC subway chokehold trial continues with challenges due to the 6-week length and $40 daily pay. Penny, a Marine veteran, is charged in the May 2023 choking death of Jordan Neely, a Black homeless man. Quarter pounders will be back on the menu at all McDonald's this week following an E. coli outbreak. The CDC reported there have been 75 E. coli cases confirmed in 13 states. And Diageo is boosting HBCU innovation, celebrating homecoming week with events like the Alumni Bison Ball at Howard University and football classics in Alabama and Louisiana. Since 2021, it's invested nearly $12 million in endowments. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Sigler involving emergency roadwork in Pomona continues to have 3 right lanes blocked with still no estimated time of reopening. On the 60 East at Highway 71, Gary Avenue split. Stop traffic continues from Fairway Drive over 35 minutes. Also, watch for the 57 North at Stop and Go flow from Tonner Canyon Road onto the 60. Phillips Ranch Road on-ramp is also closed due to the paving. Sigler injury crash in Hollywood's 101 North at Sunset Boulevard only continues to have the left lane open as stop traffic from Union Avenue Glendale Boulevard split is over 45 minutes. A crash is currently blocking Harbor City's off-ramp to Pacific Coast Highway on the 110 South. Also, watch for heavy traffic coming from Sepulveda Boulevard. Then back in Elysian Park's 110 North connector to the 5 South, right shoulder of the connector is still blocked with a crash and over 20 minutes of a backup runs heavy from the 10.
September 15th to 21st is Asthma Peak Week with the highest concentration of asthma flare-ups and hospitalizations. To become a more active participant in your care, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders, are the talk of the NFL again after Sunday's dramatic win over the Chicago Bears. Rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels threw a 52-yard Hail Mary touchdown pass to Noah Brown as time ran out. The Commanders are 6-2 for the first time since 2008. They're in first place in the NFC East. Congratulations to Colorado football coach Deion Sanders. Deion's team is 6-2 after beating Cincinnati on Saturday. Colorado is 4-1 in the Big 12 Conference. The 6 wins makes Colorado eligible for a bowl game. Colorado hasn't been bowl eligible since 2016. Colorado was 4-8 last season in Deion's first year at the school. With 4 games left on the regular season schedule, Colorado is in contention for the Big 12 championship and a spot in the 12-team national playoffs. Impressive turnaround for Deion and Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Bad Ash Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Chevy, all the things 2024 truck season radio 30, code GWMR0294000.
This truck season, think about all the things you can do in a Chevy truck. You'll be able to Or you can even just... With impressive towing, incredible bed and tailgate functionality, and multiple powertrains, Chevy trucks have what you need to get things done. When you want to do it all, Chevy's got you. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets a threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us. And I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope. But hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the
Thank you for coming forward with us. You're tuned in to KBLA Talk 1580, and this is Angela Bredoff-Wright, the host of KBLA Talk 1580's Legal Lens Show on the weekends, and I have the pleasure of guest hosting for Areva Martin in real time, who is, as we speak, out on the battleground stage, speaking to voters. She calls them irregular voters, voters that are on the fence about whether to show up to vote at all. And today we welcome Alan Orr, founder of the Orr Immigration Law Firm, and Rashad Frazier Gaines as our guest in this first hour to help us break down some of the headlines in the news. Alan, thank you for the insights you provided on immigration and where President Biden and Harris and Vice President Harris, what they have accomplished, even with limited options in their cycle as president and vice president. Rashad Frazier Gaines, the founder of Black Progressive based in Texas. All in the news today is all about the Madison Square Garden rally that former President Trump held and the racist tropes, the multiple racist tropes that were put forward by the comedian that he had on stage related to Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, Blacks, Jews. He covered the whole gamut of, individuals that are considered marginalized in our society. What are your thoughts on that? Especially given the work you do with your organization, what were your immediate reaction to once you heard that story?
I wanted to vomit. I don't think any of this stuff is attractive. I don't think it's cute. I don't think that this is something that is becoming of a person who desires a second chance to lead our country and shape the world, right? America plays a really huge role, as being, big brother to so many countries. And it's very sad that we're here. 8 days away from electing a new president, and one of the presidential candidates, this is what he's doing. It's like watching a spoiled rich kid who lost a spelling bee be given best overall, and they lost. We've all dealt with bullies, and we've all dealt with people with memes and how the system buckles for them. We've dealt with that our entire lives, not just we as like people of color, but like every individual who's not from means in this country has watched those who are presumed to be wealthy and influential get their way time and time again. And as I approach the young age of 40, I'm a little over it. I think we can do
Yeah.
better.
And, many are saying that support former President Trump are saying that as he makes certain comments himself, or as he makes certain threats about what will happen if he's elected, that he's just joking, that we can't take these issues seriously. Do you think this, what we saw happen at Madison Square Gardens is like the example that we need, that everybody needs to know that no, this is serious, this is how this campaign operates, and how this future president might, or former president might operate if reelected? Do you think now that folks should take it more seriously, or that they are? Rashad, and then Alan, I'd love to get your thoughts.
I stopped laughing at Donald Trump in 2012, with the birth. I remember being a field organizer in St. Petersburg, Florida, for President Obama, and just the heaviness and the intentionality behind his digs. Like, they stopped being funny to me over 10 years ago. No one's laughing. Like, what Donald Trump says and does affect people in their real lives every single day. I'm currently pursuing my Master's of Public Affairs from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. My campus is like 10 minutes from the actual border, right? This is real life, and I'm so glad to be sharing this space with two amazing attorneys tonight, right? But especially Alan, with the work that he does for immigration. I think as a Black community, we need to kind of shift our thoughts when it comes to immigration, because I get it. Like, no one wants to be Black, right? If we're looking at a totem pole of oppression, no one wants to be Black, right? Black people have had it the absolute worst when we look at society and history. And so it seems like there are just people who are looking for somebody else to dump on, right? But the reality is, while the media and the public narratives coming from certain elected officials and parties may be skewed towards Mexicans, there are a lot of Black nations, nations of Black people, who are being done horribly by our immigration system.
Right. We never quite get to that part of the discussion. I mean, now we have light on it from the issue with former President Trump's comments about the Haitians, right? That gave some light. But before then, we don't really talk about Black immigration in this discussion.
Right. And that's something that has to be considered. I mean, like, yes, the Biden administration did a great job outrolling this Haiti program, right? But people's applications were being held up for no reason, absolutely no reason. And then, but if you add a Ukrainian person to your application, you got pushed through in 2 weeks, right? That's a fact. That's on record, and that's a problem. And so we're having all of these conversations about immigration towards countries that are majority people of color, or have people of color in leadership, but we're turning a complete blind eye to the millions and billions of dollars and the millions of people who are being let in from European countries. We have absolutely nothing to say about that. We have nothing to say about the measures that are being taken to allow their credentials from their schools so they can get jobs, they have access to funding, they can build homes. There are so many things that are happening, and we're saying absolutely nothing.
Right.
We're jumping on Mexicans.
Let me ask Alan. And that's a great place to get Alan's way in here. Dumping on Mexicans, and sometimes we lump the entire Latino population together. It's under one umbrella, but it's very diverse, as is the Black community and other communities. Alan, there was a lot of dumping on Puerto Ricans in particular this past weekend. What are your thoughts when you got when you heard word of the news, I was actually with my family. We were having, good time celebrating birthdays and so forth. And I actually thought, like, when I heard the news, it was just a joke. Like, oh, no, that couldn't have happened. Where were you, and what are your thoughts as you reflect on this?
So I wasn't watching any of it because I refused to watch or participate in the ratings for that type of thing. First, Puerto Ricans are Americans, have been Americans for decades now. So that's number one. So the concept that they're othering again in sort of a Hispanic Latino way, and they're not Mexican, and sort of demonizing them when they're part of the United States is a problem, right? So even they've turned away from Black immigrants and the Hispanic sort of trope, because now they're talking about who's an American, who has birthright citizenship rights in some ways. And that's what they're drilling in more of, sort of separating within the country. So I think that this is a turnout election, and we need to put this in context, because first we had a general come out and say that he's a fascist. Then we had him do the stomping ground and say awful things about Harris. And then they say, oh, no, he's never said these things, and he did. Then he had this rally in New York City that sort of happened. And then later, yesterday, or the day during the same context, 13 former members of the White House staff wrote a letter saying everything General Kelly said was true. So hopefully that will motivate people in the middle to go and vote if they were thinking about if they're undecided. But what I think it really gives is fire for people like us to reach our communities, to say, for Black people or brown people or people in this country who were never going to vote or who are registered to vote and have not voted in a while, to say, this is the reason you need to go vote. They are telling you who they are, and this will impact you on every level.
And, that is a great point. And those are exactly the voters that Areva herself is out talking to now. I described, she calls them the irregular voter, not just the undecided voter, the voter who's literally like, I'm just sitting this out. And you're like, why are you sitting it out? Just neither candidate seems credible to me, or I don't think the system does anything for me. Why can't folks sit this election out, right? So let's pick up there when we come forward. And also, Vice President Harris was overheard. Fortunately, she was saying something that we already know already, and it wasn't anything that put her in hot water, that, she still has some work to do with male voters. And we also know Black male voters, and both of you being African-American men definitely want your weigh in on that as well. So as we come forward, think about those two things. For those just tuning in, you're tuned into KBLA Talk 1580. This is Angela Reddock Wright, and I'm guest hosting for Areva Martin in real time today. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
From the first day of kindergarten through the day they graduate high school, in California, 38% of students attend a public school that fails to meet minimum health standards. That's why we need Prop 2. Voting yes on Prop 2 will fund urgent repairs at local schools, protect kids from toxic mold, asbestos, and lead, ensure clean drinking water, and repair leaky ceilings and storm damage. Yes on Prop 2. To fix what's actually broken. All funds go to local schools without raising taxes. You heard that right. So join the California NAACP nurses and teachers and vote yes on 2. Because all our kids deserve a safe place to learn. Ad paid for by Yes on Prop 2, sponsored by Nonprofit Education, Labor and Business Associations. Ad committee's top funders: California Building Industry Association, California Teachers Association, Coalition for Adequate School Housing.
Medicare open enrollment is here, and it's a time you can make changes to your health coverage. Yet, watch out for enrollment and marketing scams. Remember, Medicare will neither call you nor solicit your business. Guard your card. Never give out your Medicare number to strangers. Unsolicited calls, door-to-door visits, and emails are prohibited. Take your time. Don't feel pressured to make a quick decision. Report scams to our California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, home of the 2024 Climate Justice Campaign.
With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at CAVSHATE.
Thank you for continuing with us. This is Angela Reddock Wright, the host of KBLA Talk 1580's Legal Lens that airs on the weekends. Guest hosting today for Areva Martin in real time. We have two amazing guests in this hour, Alan Orr and Rashad Frazier Gaines, and we've been breaking down the Madison Square Gardens incident with instead of racist tropes with former President Trump this weekend. And also this weekend, we overheard microphones overheard Vice President Harris speaking to the governor of Michigan and admitting herself that she still has some ground to cover with men. Rashad, let's start with you. As a Black male yourself, I also love to get some of your thoughts on what's happening in the faith-based community that you work with and help to organize. But as a Black male, when President Obama spoke to Black men a few weeks ago, did you think he was too hard on them? Take a deep breath.
I don't know who President.
Watch what you say. Okay.
I don't know who President Obama was talking to because he wasn't talking to me. And I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna leave that alone. He wasn't talking to me. I think President Obama has some issues that he needs to work through. Because the reality is, I think if we're being completely honest, President Obama has more of an issue with Black men than Vice President Kamala Harris does.
And I think she did a great job of coming back after him and letting Black men know that, letting them know that she cares about what they think and she cares about their vote and wanting their vote.
Absolutely. He has an issue with Black men. She does not. I think the media has painted this narrative. I think there are some Black men who have an issue with Kamala Harris as an individual. She was never going to get their votes, and whether they're voting for Trump or they're not voting at all, there's nothing she can do about that. I think the vast majority of the Black men who are in question have an issue with the Democratic Party because historically, since the last almost 50 or 60 years that Black people have been able to vote, the Democrats have always told Black people to wait their turn. And I think we are in the third generation of Black people being able to vote freely, allegedly, in America. And people are tired of waiting their turn. They're tired of being passed over, right? And then now we have this political animus between Black women and Black men, where 60 years ago, we were swinging and getting, water hose down together. Now we're, on opposite sides. So I think there's a real issue there. And so it just so happens that the party that I have an issue with has a woman who identifies as Black as the top of the ticket in the presidential candidate. It's not that they have an issue with Kamala Harris. They have an issue with the Democratic Party, who Kamala Harris just happens to be the face of right now. And that is not the same thing as having a problem with Kamala Harris. So again, I don't know who President Obama was talking to. He was not talking to me. He wasn't talking to my cohorts, because we're voting for Kamala Harris. My presiding bishop, J. Drew Sheard of the Churches of God in Christ, is under ire right now from the evangelical community, because he is very clear and has been in the forefront that I'm with her. And he's been saying it for months. We got attacked this weekend by Donnie Swaggart, who has no business attacking anybody. You definitely don't want to come over here, because culture people do not play. But with that being said, I don't think President Obama was not speaking to me, and he wasn't speaking to the hundreds of thousands of Black men that I know who are voting for Kamala Harris, whether or not they have an issue with the Democratic Party.
A great distinction, and I do want to circle back. We only have a few minutes left in this I'll have as with you all as guests today, and I'm sure Areva will have you back at another point. But I do want to just give some quick insight on the Black faith-based community, because I don't feel like we've gotten as much coverage on that in the news. But Alan, what are your thoughts? Was President Obama speaking to you and the men in your network?
He didn't insult me. I do think he was speaking to a certain type of man. Misogyny is a real thing, and we should just address that head on. And if you're insulted by someone who is doing a passionate thing for you because Obama's going to be okay, we continue that we're voting for Harris, but we're voting for ourselves and our own policies. And if we don't get in the right mindset to get in the right place where we will have the right sort of power and positioning, because if you look within the Democratic Party, when you look at the seats of power, a lot of them are Black men, a lot of them are Black immigrant men in many cases. So we need to sort of work on our concepts of how we're sort of framing this conversation. And it is okay. You know, I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to that sort of strong conversation to be moved with. And I want us also to not romanticize the 60s. Women were getting hosed, but women were not getting past the mic. When you think about the March on Washington, they were allowed to sing, but really not allowed to speak. And in many of those round tables, they were excluded from because they were not men. So we have a lot of work to do as Black men, as recognizing the work that Black women have done consistently with regards to the party. And while we might fall second in the list, we're still high up there, and Black people are not a monolith. So don't expect all Black people to do anything.
Indeed. And do you think Vice President Harris has done a good job of showing that she cares about Black men and what they think, and that she's going to want their voice as a part of her administration, Alan?
As a Morehouse man and a Howard Law grad, the answer is yes. I think within our communities, as I'm sure that my brother does a lot of, there's some civic education that needs to happen.
Right. Well, great insights. And Rashad, I've mistakenly stated that you're from Texas. Where are you from? Where are you based, Rashad?
I'm from South Carolina.
Okay. You're
Washington, D.C.
in the heart of things.
But I'm from South Carolina.
Texas, South Carolina, same, both in the heart of things, right? And Tennessee as well, So Rashad, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing in terms of helping to organize. Is it the Black faith community in particular?
So in our Kojic movement, I run our Biblical Justice Initiative, which is teaching social justice from a biblical lens, because sometime in an
Rashad,
effort
we have
to be
about 2
heavenly
minutes,
bound, people got it. Sometimes in an effort to make it into the gates of heaven, the saints don't get it right on earth. So we had to take a step back, like, no, let me show you what's going on. Because like we're losing millennials and whatever this next generation is. They're not coming to church, like they used to, because they feel like the church doesn't meet the moment. So we had to dial it back, do some reteaching, show people, how to accurately interpret the scriptures for to be relevant today. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I often say Jesus was one of the most radical people we know of in history, right? Jesus certainly didn't take a step back on the issues that matter, right? Yeah. And so how's that coming? Has the Kojic Church in particular and the young people there been more engaged? Have you seen more engagement on the ground and speaking to issues?
So the young people weren't the problem. The problem was the folks in leadership, right?
Okay.
And I mean, we see this from the civil rights movement. You know, you have a lot of people who are extra radical when they were young, but then once they get into certain positions and, you know, their economics change and they have access, you know, their candor changes, their tone changes. And so we just have to find a way to figure out how to move the needle together with no one being pushed out and no one being left
Well,
behind. And that's so much easier
perfect,
said than done,
perfect.
but that's our
Go
that's
ahead.
our
I'm
mission.
sorry. Okay, wonderful. And thanks to both of you for being on the front lines and talking about issues that matter and doing work that matter. I know Areva's very excited that you were able to join us, and I'm sure she'll have you back, and I'll have to have you on the Legal Lens show as well. So have a good rest of the evening, guys, and the next week. We're all waiting with bated breath to see what happens. And so come forward with us. You're tuned into Areva Martin in real time. This is Angela Redoff Wright guest hosting for her. And up next, we have an amazing guest, Dante King, who's been on this show before, as well as the Legal Lens show. And Dante definitely has a lot to talk about and to weigh in on. So you don't want to miss this next half hour.